In this video I'm going to show you how to add and subtract mixed numbers, and all of these examples are using mixed numbers where the denominators are the same in the fraction part, so it's actually quite straightforward. For each of the examples I'm going to show a kind of a way to visualize what's going on so that we can understand exactly how 3.5 and 1.5 comes together to form an answer. What it looks like when you do 3 3/4, take away 2 1/4, etc. Okay, so 3.5. Let's get 3.5 up first. Here's 1, 2, 3.5 plus 1.5. I'll do that in a different colour. I'll use purple. 1.5. Okay, so I've got how many wholes? Let's just deal with the whole numbers first of all. Adding. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 wholes, and now the halves. We've got 2 halves. We've got this one here and this one here. So we've got 2 halves. 4 and 2 halves. Right, that doesn't seem quite right. We've got a fraction here where the top number is the same as the bottom number. We've got the numerator is the same as the denominator. That must equal 1 whole. So we've got 4 wholes and 2 halves, and these 2 halves are equivalent to another whole. So 4 wholes and 1 whole, that makes 5 wholes presumably. 5. So 5 wholes. We don't need to write the wholes, but I just thought I'd write it for completeness sake. So we've got 5. 3.5 plus 1.5 equals 5. How does that work out with the diagram that we've got drawn? Well, if I get rid of this part, that half, and I actually move that part over to here and fill in that half, those 2 halves fit together quite nicely to make a whole. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wholes. Right, next one. 3 3/4, take away 2 1/4. 1, 2, 3 3/4. Shade these in. Something like that. 3 3/4. Now we've got to take away 2 1/4. So if I take away 2 to start with, I'll take away these 2 in the middle, just because they're 2 wholes. Right, so we've got 1 3/4 left, but then it said take away and this quarter here. Okay, so just to be clear, what I've done so far is I've just worked with the whole numbers, and I did 3 take away 2. 3 take away 2 equals 1. Right, so we know we've got 1 whole left, but now we're going to work with the fraction parts. 3/4 take away 1/4. So from this 3/4 I'm going to get rid of a quarter. So let's have a look. There we go. What am I left with? Well, what's supposed to be 2/4, but I'm not very convinced by that. Let's just fill that in a bit. Yeah, okay, there, it's 2/4. So 1 2/4. That's my answer. And sorry, I shouldn't really have written that there. That's bad form. Let's try writing out 3/4 take away 1/4 equals 2/4, and now we can join these bits together again. And so the final answer is 1 2/4. And for those of you who know how to simplify, 2/4 cancels down to 1/2. So in fact, our final answer can be written as 1 1/2. Don't worry if you're happy to leave it as 1 2/4, that's fine, unless the question says write the answer in its simplest form, and then in which case you would have to write that. Okay, final example is 3 and 5/8 plus 2 and 5/8. 1, 2, 3 and 5/8. Right, quickly shade those in. One, 2, 3, and then 5/8. Right, brilliant. Okay, so we're going to add 2 and 5/8, which looks like this. 1, 2, 3, and I'll shade them in a different colour, like this. Oops, not like that. More like this. 1, 2, and another 5/8. Okay. Something like that. Okay, so 2 and 5/8 plus 3 and 5/8. And what do? Well, we do what we did before, which is to add the wholes separately from the fraction part. So if we do that now, 3 plus 2 is 5. So we've got 5 wholes, and we can see that from the diagram. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wholes. And now just working with the fraction part, 5/8 plus 5/8. 5/8 plus 5/8 equals 10/8. Right, well that 10/8 is more than a whole. That adds up to more than a whole. That actually adds up to 1 and 2/8, doesn't it? Because I've got 8/8, which would be 1 whole, and then I've got 2/8 left over, so that's 1 whole and 2/8. So I need to add that 1 and 2/8 onto the 5 wholes that we already had. I'm going to have to make some space for this. And we'll just we'll lose these, shall we? Okay, 5 and 5 wholes plus 1 and 2/8. Right, it's the wholes together that we need to add. 6 and 2/8. And if the question has asked you to leave the answer in the simplest form, then you would need to cancel these through, and that would become 1/4. So you would write 6 and 1/4. Okay, that's the end of that video. There's other videos in the series on adding and subtracting fractions with the same denominator and with different denominators. Thanks for watching. Bye.